Hello, Watem here, and welcome back to some more Higurashi When They Cry. I've got a bit of time before I need to get back to assignments, so let us continue. For a while, I kept holding the telephone receiver, lost in thought. Then I put it down and dialed a number that I'd become very familiar with. The quote-unquote gardeners, Hakanaki, I think.
はい、
Oh, hotel receptionist. Okay.
エコノミーホテル沖宮でございます。
Keeping tabs on Tomataki, I guess.
406号室、富武をお願いします。高野とお伝えください。
はい、今お取り次ぎしますので、少々お待ちください。
He'll just so happen to be away and busy doing something, yes. The telephone operator put me on hold, leaving behind only electronic music. I waited for about a minute, and the operator came back on again.
申し訳ございません。406号室のお客様はただいま外出中でございます。お電話があった旨ご伝言いたしましょうか。
もう何度も伝言を頼んでるから結構です。
Oh, she hasn't been able to get in contact with him.
富武さんはいつ外出したかわかりますか？いつ頃戻るかわかりますか？
あ、申し訳ございません。それにつきましてはお答えできかねます。
わかりました。またかけます。
I put down the phone before the operator finished speaking. This is the third time I've tried calling him. I left a message telling him to call me back, but he hasn't. Why? Is he out taking photographs by himself? Or is he waiting for me behind the shrine where we usually meet? Now, why are you trying to think what's going through her mind? So she wants to be with a person that she's going to murder in like less than a day, probably. Who would think I would actually come all the way here, expecting him to be waiting for me? I'm even surprised myself. People are in the middle of setting up tomorrow's festival. Tents are being put up for food stalls, and preparations for various events are taking place. It's almost too noisy for me, what with people shouting as they work, plus the noise from the batteries for the stalls. Do we get to see Hanyu? Maybe. Soon I reached the back of the shrine before realizing that this is probably the best view in the whole village. This is where Jiro-san and I usually meet. Maybe, just maybe, he's waiting for me here. Of course, that's just wishful thinking. God will never grant my wishes. He only has a bit of fun teasing me. I looked down at the village below, letting the breeze blow through my hair. He usually follows me around while he stays in Hinmazawa. He persistently asks if I want to go out to eat, go for a walk, or take some photographs with him. But he hasn't done any of that this visit. His behavior towards me has changed. Maybe it's because he heard about the horrible impression I left with the new board of directors. Maybe he thinks I'm a mad scientist because of that incident. I can feel that he's gradually losing interest in me. But I had my own complaints too. And I don't want him around. He's so persistent. But when I need him to listen to me, I can't get a hold of him. But if I did get through to him, what would I even talk about? What could I talk to him about? After talking to someone about the plan to assassinate him? Why should he even answer my call? I'm simply running wildly. When I reach the point of no return, I want to be forgiven. And I want him to do that for me. Just because he always does whatever I want him to do, and he shows up whenever I need him. He would forgive someone like me, someone who has nowhere to go but hell. Would he forgive me? Out of sympathy? No way. Well, he'll be surprised. He'll do his job and arrest me. I am a member of the SDF after all, so what I'm doing is committing treason. I've been thinking about him a lot for these past few days. And just now, I realized something. Aww. He's not attractive at all as a man. He has no sense of humor or good taste. He has nothing, absolutely nothing. Well, yes, there's nothing about him. And yet, he doesn't care about my schedule. He's persistent, and when I treat him nicely because I'm in a good mood, he becomes even more persistent. There really is absolutely nothing good about him. Despite his age, he tells me things like how the last time he held a woman's hand was when he did folk dancing at summer camp. Furthermore, he says those things to make me laugh. He's hopeless. More than anything, I can't stand when he completely ignores my feelings. I want to be alone sometimes. I don't want to do anything sometimes. Yet he drags me out, completely ignoring how I feel. That's why, even when I'm exhausted or I don't feel like doing anything, I end up going with him, which makes me laugh. I always thought that just wore me out, yet I want him to drag me around. I'll probably never feel this way again, and yet he's not here. Do I really believe I don't want to spend time with him? Maybe I've just grown used to his abundant affection. When he took me out on a day, I didn't want to do anything. I was in a bad mood at first, but after a while, I started to feel better and found myself having a lot of fun. If he was with me now, would he take me out to photograph birds like always? Would he happily explain it all with his know-how, even though I didn't ask? That would be very boring and troublesome. That's what I honestly want right now. Do I see my grandpa in him? I love my grandpa. He gave me a purpose to live. I needed him. I loved Uncle Koizumi. He helped me with my dream. I needed him. After both of them died, maybe I just saw clear aspects in him. Am I starving for a protector? Maybe I'm so traumatized by my parents' accident that I need to have someone nearby to watch over me all the time. Maybe I'm still immature. My inner child is throwing a fit because she can't put together a toy, saying that if it's going to be broken anyway, she's going to break it herself. It won't be just my problem. It will bring about that huge, irreversible tragedy. But that's the only way to prove the truth of my grandfather's work. That belief allowed me to prepare up to this point. In just a few days, the top members of the government will be scrutinizing my grandfather's article. And, terrified by the worst-case scenario he predicted, they'll regret cancelling our research and neglecting countermeasures as they pass their final resolution. That's when my grandfather's article will become truth, his great work uplifted, and his name carved into the pages of history. And then he will become a god, an eternal existence. And I will reveal the god worshipped as Oishiro-sama to be the Himurazawa syndrome, casting them down to earth. I'm going to complete the fifth curse of Oishiro-sama with Jiro-san's death, as well as my own. I'll become the one who curses, not the one who was cursed. I'll be in the position to test, instead of being tested. I will ascend to godhood. I'm going to make the curse a reality, and I'm going to kick the god of this place off her throne. And then, grandfather and I will be together forever. Gods don't get tested. Fate doesn't test gods. No grief will separate us. I will be with my grandfather forever. After that, we're going to work on our research together in that study, filled with the smell of formalin. A scene from happier days. Grandpa is at his desk, writing down something. I'm in a good mood, lying on my stomach on the carpet right behind him, while flapping my legs and humming a tune. I help him with his research by organising his books, as if I were playing with blocks. To return to those times is my only wish. Of course, if I could go back that far, I'd want my parents to be alive too. If I could play with my grandpa's books, or listening to my mother's cooking in the kitchen, and my father flipping through his newspaper. That would complete my happy world. It would be my ideal childhood. But that world doesn't have a door to the outside world. So I can't go over to my friend's house. Because if I did go to my friend's house, there wouldn't be anybody there when I returned. Nobody. Because they'd all have died in a train accident. So I don't want an outside world. I want to stay in my house with my parents and my grandfather. I am a doctor, after all. I can analyze myself. I know that what I'm wishing for is proof of my immaturity. But if I know that much, then why do I still long for a parental figure in Jiro-san? Even as I plan an operation which includes his death, I'm still trying to hang on to him. If I'm going to betray people so I can become a god, then I should remain a villain until my final moments. But if I'd rather be a lonely little girl, then I should remain modest and humble until my final moments. Either way, if it is my way of life, nobody can criticize me for it. Because if I believe it is right, then all I can do is go on without listening to such criticism. But I still can't decide, so I want somebody to criticize me. Nobody has ever criticized my way of life. That's why I want to hear someone do it. I want someone to tell me my way of life is wrong. I want Jiro-san to tell me I've done such a stupid thing, and I want him to slap me. Such masochistic desires speak a great deal as to how I'm rejecting my present self. Am I really still longing for a parent? I'm too old to call myself mature. Even if I do, nobody else will. No matter how immature I am inside, people will treat me as a grown person. They will say I possess an adult's responsibility and proper judgment, and that they've brought me this far already. And I'll be judged before the devil. Will I still plead not to judge my immature self as grown up? Am I going to act that pathetically, even in front of the devil? I'm already going to hell, but I can't completely become a devil. I hate the idea of hell, yet I refuse to try and repent. My mind can only float in a lake of blood, drifting as I drown. If only Jiro-san was here, my mind would clear up as I played along with his insensitive chatter. Why isn't he around when I need him the most? Is this the last chance I'll have to spend time with him? I hate how immature I am, becoming so insecure just because he isn't around. I found myself before the offertory box. I came here when Irie's clinic construction had ended and the research of the Irie Institute was about to begin. I remember how bravely I challenged the god of this place. I was full of hope and ambition. After going through many hardships, I finally came this far. I even vowed I would become a god. I did so in front of the god of this place. I can vaguely recall my grandfather telling me a story similar to that. That's right. It was the story of the Tower of Babel. And there was only one language in this world. All people lived in one place with one will. In a display of their authority, they started to build a tower that would reach heaven. God got angry because these people had forgotten how to show respect to him. He believed all man gathered to commit such an affront because they all shared one language and one will. So their communion was shattered, people were thrown into disorder, and they were given many different languages so they wouldn't be able to communicate with each other. And as they couldn't communicate with each other, many left, and the tower which challenged heaven fell to ruin. Something like that, anyway. I'm not sure what the lesson is. This is what my grandfather explained to me. Building a tower that reaches up to heaven is the greatest challenge for humans, but it is also a challenge to God. To challenge God was truly sinful, but as humans we couldn't help but test that untrodden peak. It's not easy to build a tower that's high enough to reach heaven. While they're building the tower, the people will fall into disharmony and lose the mutual understanding they once started with, their united wills thrown into disarray. This applies not just to a group of people, but can be said about one person as well. No matter how solid their will, the closer they come to heaven, the more limits God imposes on man. So even iron wills are sure to waver at some point. It's just too arrogant for humans to think they can always carry out their original intentions. That must have been what my grandfather was thinking, deep down. I'm sure he lost hope many times, since nobody ever recognized the value of his research. Yet he believed in himself, and he believed that someday his work would be appreciated. Maybe that was his wish, rather than reaching heaven. Grandfather realized he wouldn't be able to complete his research. Maybe he was trying to find where he could compromise. Humans can't build a tower that reaches heaven. But the story of the Tower of Babel is still around. It didn't reach heaven, but we still tell the story of the tower that challenged God. According to the story, the tower was left behind with nobody to work on it. The incomplete tower stayed in that place for a long time, never achieving its goal. But if someone were to see it, they'd realize how great it was that someone accepted that challenge and praised their name. I took over the tower from my grandfather and tried to make it reach heaven, but ended up succumbing to the same fate. And if it's going to be destroyed anyway, I will try to destroy it myself. What am I doing? Anyway, if I hadn't tried to continue grandfather's research, his work on Higurashi syndrome would have remained forever. Even if it was an empty tower that nobody ever visited, somebody did come by, they would praise whoever attempted that challenge. They would have praised my grandfather, but I took over his work, and I built the tower even closer to heaven, which made God angry, and the tower is now going to be destroyed. The tower will become a pile of rubble. When the Erie Institute is shut down, all of its records will be destroyed. My grandfather's wish for his work to be appreciated by someone will never be granted. I tried to make my grandfather an eternal existence, yet I ended up making that an impossibility. How can I call myself the Otacama? Instead of inheriting the 1, 2, 3 from my grandfather and continuing the count to 3, 4, I reduced it all to 0. If it wasn't for me, my grandfather's work would have remained an empty tower. It would have stayed in this world forever. But I ruined it. I did that. I can feel myself sweating. The sweat reminds me that I've done something inexorable. When did I make a mistake? Where did I go wrong? It wasn't when I came here. It was before that. I started to walk down the wrong path long before that. If I put myself in my grandfather's spot, I know. My grandfather was working on a great challenge. He built a mighty tower, and it was supposed to continue to stand there and wait for someone to appreciate it. Grandfather definitely said he wanted his work to be valued by someone, even after his death. But I misunderstood. Somewhere along the way, I made a wrong turn. I misinterpreted grandfather's wish, and I ruined it. I ruined everything. I tried to make him an eternal existence, yet I destroyed him. Grandfather built an eternal tower, yet I raised it. Where did I make a mistake? What went wrong? It's obvious. My grandfather counted to 3, and with that it was complete. I simply tried to do more with addition, and everything collapsed. And now all of it is ruined. I shouldn't have tried to count to 4. I shouldn't have done anything. Besides, grandfather didn't even ask me to continue his research. A little girl shouldn't play in this dark study. Go outside and play with your friends. I remember my grandfather telling me things like that. But I refused and stayed in the study so I could help him. And eventually, he stopped telling me to play outside and just enjoyed having my company while he worked. But when we first met, he used to say things like that. Then, what? Living with Grandpa was the first mistake I made? Then what? When I escaped the orphanage, I shouldn't have called Grandpa. I shouldn't have found a 10-yen coin. I shouldn't have asked Grandpa to help me. Now I remember. I know where I belong. What? A noise of something metal striking something else is getting closer. It's getting closer and closer. I'm not allowed to fall asleep. Ah, I wasn't asleep. I just had my eyes closed, that's all. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, sorry. Damn you! Going back to the orphanage, I'm guessing.
ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい。あー、気をつけます。ごめんなさい、ごめんなさい。
Come on. Damn it. Don't kick, don't kick. I'm afraid of a metal sound. Please don't kick it. I'm not being kicked. The noise is kicking me. So please don't kick. Please don't kick the metal fence, please. My body is getting cracked. I think my body is getting cracked. All the dirty, itchy and painful things soak into those cracks, and the filth and prickling feel horrible. It's soaking into my chest, gathering together. I desperately try to resist so that it won't touch my heart. But the dirtiness and the itching draw together more and more. My whole chest is soaked, and soon my face will be swallowed. Even drowning in this dirtiness and itching, I try desperately to hold my breath, so that at least my heart won't be soaked with it. Damn it. I can't hold my breath any longer. I drown in an ocean of muck, and yet, as I'm taking on the muck, my heart desperately struggles not to be tainted by it, to rise above it until my heart too sinks into the sea of grime. Only creatures that have lived on land will gasp and suffer the pain of drowning as long as they return to dry land. Creatures that have always lived in the ocean never drown. Grandpa won't come help me. That is the best thing for me and him both. I am... See? When I stop struggling, there is no more noise. I don't have to hear that scary metal noise. Is it a roar or a yell? I needed to borrow strength to scream, in order to come back to the present world. My body is all sweaty. It feels dirty, itchy and painful. It reminds me of that day. I can feel welts coming on as the sweat crawls down my skin. No, it's just a delusion. It can't be itchy, because all of that is long over. I take a bath every day. I scrub my body until it turns raw and red. So not even the slightest drop of that horrible filth could possibly remain. I can't help it. I remember the filth. I can only get rid of it by scratching my arms so hard it leaves marks. I can't get rid of the itching. I'm kind of reminded of Hinozawa syndrome, but it might just be trauma. Can't get rid of the filth. Of course I can't. I'm a filthy existence. Yeah, like the ickiness which Rena feels. Grandpa should have never saved someone like me. Meeting me made him unhappy. I shouldn't have existed. I mean, based on like what we've heard of it seems like he was really happy with Takano, looking after her. The rest of his family basically abandoning him. I shouldn't have been born. I should have stayed inside that metal fence and spent my whole life there. I need to go back inside it. I should have never left. That place is where I belong. Corner me with that horrible metal noise. Crush me with that filth, itchiness and pain. And then kill me. So that I'll never meet Grandpa. Is that your wish? Yes. Much like those left behind at the top of Babel's crumbling tower. Or Icarus, unable to reach heaven, only to fall. That is my final wish. Bring me back inside that metal fence, and give me back the fate that is suitable for my filthy existence. The wish of a liar will never come true, but I am not a liar. You have spoken your true wish once, yet you have yet to realize that's your greatest wish. And I cannot grant that wish just yet. Are you saying that's the punishment we simple humans face for challenging God? You should already know. The strength of your desire is what creates the future. You lack that strength. God. Are you saying I haven't taken myself enough? Will even the great gates of hell remain shut for someone not fully committed like me? And here I was hoping for honey. I get the feeling that's probably the closest we'll get to having the Hanyu and Takano talk for now.
リカさん、さとこちゃん、容体はいかがですか？私です。入江です。
It's Akasaka one. I have to be careful. Akasaka opened the door silently.
お疲れ様です。外は賑やかですね。
明日のお祭りの準備で大にぎわいです。これは模擬店部会さんからお見舞いにと持たされたかき氷です。せっかくなのでいただきましょう。
これはありがたい。いただきましょう。
Akasaka-san is wearing a t-shirt, but he's still drenched in sweat. All the windows have been shut, and he can't even open the curtains, so it's very hot inside. But even accounting for that, he's still sweating like mad.
すごい汗ですね。確かにこの暑さでは無理もありません。
いえ、トレーニングを少ししていただけです。ドタバタするわけにはいきませんので、もちろん気をつけながらですが、有事があるなしに関わらず、体は常に臨戦態勢にしておかなければ。
適度な運動は気分転換にもいいですからね。
Move around so that he isn't, what's the word? So that she isn't stiff when it comes time.
このようなところでずっと緊張を強いられていては、精神的にも参ってしまうでしょうに。
いえ、慣れてますから。でも、先生の差し入れはとても助かります。
Akasaka smiled like a happy child as he ate the strawberry-flavored shaved ice.
何か動きはありますか？富武さんから連絡は？
いえ、まだ何も動きはありません。あ、高野さんが富武さんと連絡がつかないと言っていました。
身の安全のために宿を変えているはずでしたね。勘つかれたのでしょうか？
いえ、そういう不信感を持ってはいないようです。私も写真撮影に飛び回っているのではないかとフォローしています。
怪しまれるのも時間の問題ですね。
She's too busy with her own feelings to really notice that.
風向きはどちらにせよ、近いうちに強い風が吹きそうです。入江先生、くれぐれもご用心を。
ええ、もちろんですよ。ああ、そうだ。先ほど大石さんにお会いしまして、こんな話が進んでいるので伝えてほしいと頼まれました。
I explained the 48-hour operation to Akasaka-san. Akasaka-san seemed impressed with the notion, especially because I told him it came from the girls.
うまい手ですね。連中に相当の揺さぶりをかけられるでしょう。そのうろたえぶりから富武さんが敵の尻尾をつかめる可能性は十分にあると思います。で、その作戦の指導は？
それは今夜大石さんと皆さんが打ち合わせして決めるようですが。
The issue is, they've seen Irie checking up on them multiple times, so that should technically restart the 48-hour clock.
やはり時間はかけられないということで、早ければ明日の早朝には決行するそうです。
そうですね。 長い時間臨戦態勢でいるのはかなりの消耗を強いられます。撃てる手があるなら早いうちの方がいい。
赤坂さんがひなみ沢に滞在できる休暇の限界もありますしね。いつまでなんですか？
家内には一応日曜日の深夜には帰ると言いましたが、事情が変わればやむを得ません。幸恵も刑事の妻です。分かってくれると思います。
ここでは奥さんに電話をすることもできませんね。それは辛い役を押し付けてしまったものです。
大丈夫です。新婚時代じゃあるまいし、毎晩電話しなきゃ見下り班ってわけじゃありません。
Despite calling her every night when you were here last time. Though he says that, it's easy to tell that Akasaka-san wants to hear the sound of her voice.
赤坂さんの方では何か変化はありましたか？何か必要なものがあれば持ってきますので。
必要なものは特にありません。変化は難しいところです。何しろ祭りの準備でこれだけの出入りがありますからね。その中に不審な気配が混じり込んでいてもとても私には分かりません。むしろ逆にこの人混みの中にここを監視する敵も混じり込んでいると思って警戒するくらいがちょうどいいでしょう。
そうですね。そうそう、山犬ですが、やはり赤坂さんがおっしゃったように動き出しているようです。
When I asked Tokunoki about their plans, he says he's raising the security level for the days surrounding the festival to take into account for the possibility that some criminal might use the fifth year of the curse to target Rika-chan.
現在の状況と一致しますね。まるで明日の祭りに合わせて表も裏も全ての準備が同時に進んでいる気がします。
明日はいろいろな意味で祭りになるとおっしゃるわけですね。
If a 48-hour operation gets underway tomorrow morning, it'll be quite the turbulent day. Yes, everything will change, starting tomorrow. June 19th, 1983. A tempestuous day that divides a peaceful world from a tragic one. The fate of a world will change on that day. I finished my secret meeting with Akasaka-san and left while calling up to the second floor window, pretending to address the girls. When some villagers saw me do that, they asked how they were doing. They asked me about both girls, which made me very happy. What Oroya-san said yesterday has already spread among the villagers. In other words, the curse of Oishiro-sama may have already lifted, even before tomorrow's festival. If nothing happens tomorrow, then this village is finally free from the curse and the ghost of the damned conflict. As we prepare for the upcoming battle, I realize the extent of the responsibility we've taken on. But at the same time, that gives me strength. After greeting officials under the main tent, I ran into Takano-san as I headed back to the clinic. It's unusual for her to be here alone. If Tomitaka-san was with her, I could understand, but she'd never come by here by herself. For a moment, I thought maybe she suspected a connection between me and Akasaka-san, but it doesn't seem that way. I'm relieved.
珍しいですね。こんなところでどうされたのですか？
いいえ、別に。
And while I am very curious about what this interaction and how it's going to go, I will leave it there for today. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know any feedback you have in the comments. Until next time, see ya.